Now, here's Mike Muse with the political news.
So let's get right to it and meet the candidates.
That completes the opening statements.
We're going to get right to it.
On Sway in the Morning.
Every Monday and Wednesday, citizens of Sway in the Morning, he is here. I'm talking about the one and only Mr. Michael J. Muse. I threw the Michael J in because I think Michael J. just sound good after the name Michael. So I'll put it in there, Michael J. Muse.
It has a good flow to it.
It has a good flow to it.
I'm not mad at when we use my middle name
okay.
when they say Michael, though.
Yeah, all right, Michael J. Muse. That's what I'm saying. All right, Mike Muse.
What's happening, homie?
I'm going to take a guess at what we'll be talking about today, political news. Something like the Mueller, a.k.a. the Mueller report.
Yes.
I heard a man call him Mueller. Is his last name Mueller or Mueller?
People say both.
Okay.
Mueller or Mueller.
All right, the report, it is out. What's going on, Mike Muse?
Yeah, so, I mean, that's all we've been talking about all weekend. But when you think about it, it's all we've been waiting for the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so we were all on the edge of our seats once we got indication that Mueller wasn't going to do any more indictments. And so that was for every indication that the special investigation was coming to a close. And we got that word on Friday at 5 p.m. when the Attorney General Barr released a statement and said that he has received the report and he will let the Congress know by the weekend what his thoughts were. And we got that letter, a memo from him by Sunday around 5 o'clock yesterday had to be. And so what was interesting is that what we come to learn is that the special counsel investigation did not find that the Trump campaign or anyone associated with it conspired or coordinated with Russia in its efforts to influence the 2016 U.S. presidential election. But we found other evidence, though, from the special counsel that went on to say regarding obstruction of justice, it goes on to say that the special counsel did not draw a conclusion one way or the other as to whether the examined conduct constituted obstruction. It goes further to say the special counsel states that while this report does not conclude the president committed a crime, it also does not exonerate him. The letter says signaling that Mueller's team struggled with this issue. And so there was two things that this special investigation was tasked to investigate. One was a collusion. The second was obstruction of justice. And so by all indications, it seems like President Trump for now, not even for now, but is cleared based upon the special investigation of any collusion that they may have had with Russia. What's up in the air, though, is the obstruction of justice. And here is how President Trump received this information.
After a long investigation, after so many people have been so badly hurt, after not looking at the other side, where a lot of bad things happened, a lot of horrible things happened, a lot of very bad things happened for our country. It was just announced there was no collusion with Russia, the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard. There was no collusion with Russia. There was no obstruction.
So that is President Trump, rightfully so, talking about there was no collusion. But what he was inaccurate was that he's been totally exonerated. He has not been totally exonerated based upon the question that the special counsel found no conclusive evidence on whether or not the obstruction is there. The reason why this is important, citizens, now we kind of have to go ahead and kind of, for me, give you context to what's happening now and split the baby a little bit and to make it a little bit confusing, but feel free to call up.
Call us up now because there's going to be a lot of calls and a lot of comments on this 888-742-3345 so we can start taking calls. But continue, Mike Muse.
So there's a couple things that we have to look at it from this perspective. The first perspective is who Attorney General Barr is and what Attorney General Barr's position is. The next thing we have to look at is what was the goal of the special counsel and the special report, what was in their purview, and what do they have power to do. And then the third part that we have to talk about is in the context of what is next steps and what is congressional's role for that. So collusion is done, so I'm not going to talk about collusion anymore for the rest of the hour, but you guys can feel free to ask questions about it. We can go further. The major question is obstruction. There is a law out there, or a rule, not a law, a rule from the Department of Justice that states that no sitting president can be indicted, right? And the reason why they state that is they believe that if a sitting president, Republican or Democrat, whoever's holding office, is indicted and has to go through court, it takes away from the duties and distracts them from being president of the United States. So then therefore there's this rule that they cannot be indicted. So then therefore the special counsel investigation, and here's where it gets interesting. What their role is to do is essentially just to provide the evidence and the data and the facts that then the Attorney General of the Department of Justice has to then conclude how to move forward with any indictments, right? So at that point, it then needs to get passed on to the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives then has to determine on whether or not they believe that the evidence that they found is grounds for a high crime. An obstruction of justice constitutes a high crime. And if it is a high crime, then the House of Representatives has the power to actually begin the impeachment process when it comes to that. Well, here's where it gets a little interesting, citizens. Attorney General Barr released a memo unsolicited of June of last year that essentially stated that he does not believe that a sitting president can be indicted for obstruction of justice. He believes that a president cannot obstruct justice. He believes that because it's in the purview by the constitutional I should say, limits that a president has in terms of executive order and executive authority, that they can fire at will, right? So then, therefore, it doesn't constitute grounds of obstruction. The Democrats are a little bit in awe about that, and a lot of Americans, too, as well, is because it appears that Barr had already made a determination prior to even becoming Attorney General, and also, too, prior to actually seeing the facts that existed. When Barr was actually assigned to become the Attorney General, when he went through his hearings, when he was nominated to become Attorney General, when he went through his hearings, this is what the Senate Democrats asked him continuously was, if the report comes out, will you release it to the public and will you make it public? Barr is of the belief that constitutionally that the special report is confidential and should not be released to the public. What he did say, though, was that he would then make a memo based upon the report, and he would give the memo to Congress, which is what we saw on Monday. But the rules state by the Department of Justice, though, that although it is confidential, that it is up to the purview or discretion of the Attorney General whether or not, if it's in public interest, to release the report. And so that is kind of where we are right now with the framework of it all.
I got Dan on the line from Florida. Dan, Mike is talking about this report and some rules in terms of releasing the report. What do you want to say? You want to chime in on this about the report?
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for taking my call.
Absolutely.
First of all, I just wanted to say great morning show topics here. I just wanted to bring up that although Barr doesn't technically have to give over the full report, I believe Congress just voted 420 to 0 on releasing the entire report. I think Republicans want to see it. I think Democrats want to see it so that they can move forward with whatever they need to do, you know?
All right. Thank you for that information. Mike, do you know about any vote, 420 to 0 to view the full report?
Yeah, what up, Dan? Thank you so much for your call and for your interest. That's why I just mentioned just now where Barr's position of this is. So the buck stops essentially with the Attorney General, right? And so what the Attorney General mentioned is that he does not believe constitutionally that a special report should be released to the public because it is confidential. The reason why it's confidential, there's grand jury testaments, there's witness statements, there's court proceedings, etc. But there is a rule that says that it is up to the discretion of the Attorney General on whether or not he believes the report is of the public interest. If it rises to the nature of the public interest, then he needs to release the report.